Let the game begin. Welcome to Listen to Reality. We had 6 people emulate a reality competition show, and now it's finally time to hear what happened, purely from their perspective. Each of them will get one episode to explain their game and their decisions without knowing whether they won. So without any further ado, let's get to it. And today we have Patrick. Hello, Patrick. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. Just like ready for this.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Yeah, let's get right into it then. So first of all, what's your experience with orgs? Just to give the audience some perspective.
I have a lot of experience. I've been playing orgs for about, I want to say 4 years now. I've won like I think 12 total orgs, most of them being the challenge.
Okay.
Um, I've won one survivor, once won the circle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Um, I think overall I tend to do pretty well in challenges in general, but I'm also kind of known for being like a more social, honest player. And I get hero of the season quite a bit, and I don't think I've ever once gotten villain of the season.
Hmm. All right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much a sum up of my org career. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I asked you about this game like maybe a few days before it started, and obviously I didn't tell you anything going into it. And then like an hour
Yeah.
before, I gave like a general description of it. But going into the game, did you have any sort of strategy?
Yeah. Going into the game, I knew it like based on the original like short description of it. I was thinking like it was extremely social based. So I wanted to be like as outgoing as possible with people while also like trying to be honest and not make people think that I'm some sort of like strategic threat in any way.
Mhm.
Even though like there are times where I can do pretty well strategically and I know how to do like certain moves and make them to where it benefits me over anyone else. Like how I usually play in the circle, I do like reverse rankings. It's like that kind of strategy.
Mhm.
So I feel like just trying to be social, open, and honest coming into the game was my strategy.
All right. Cool. So, you had an interesting scenario in this game where I did specifically try to get people who didn't know it, but I learned that you're basically everywhere. So this question might be a different answer for you than it did for everyone else. But did you get along with anyone right away?
Well, I knew everyone on the cast except for Ray.
Hmm.
So coming into the game, I pretty much did have like an idea of how each person played. Like for example, one person that stood out to me that I hadn't spoken with extensively before, like right off the bat, was Sloth. I played an org that he hosted twice, a survivor, and I got
Hmm.
fourth both times.
Oh.
So I kind of had like I guess an idea of his personality, and I knew how to like play off of him and like bounce conversations off of him, but I've never
Okay.
seen him play before, so I didn't know like strategically how he was, but he did give me a strong first impression. And then there was people like Noah who I knew from challenge orgs beforehand, but he's not necessarily the most liked in the community, to say the least. He finds way to like hack challenges and make stuff like I don't know, I guess easier
Hmm.
or like break them in general. And I feel like first impression with him this game was like not as strong because he has a very like I guess controlling and to the point personality, and he knows exactly how he wants to do stuff and doesn't like really work around that.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, that and then like Kane I've been friends with for a while,
Hmm.
and I know him to be a strategic player, not necessarily like I don't know. He didn't stand out in the strategic way the way I thought he would.
Hmm. Interesting. You kind of addressed this a bit, but was there anyone you really didn't get along with right away?
Yeah, definitely Noah immediately was like the person I would say I wasn't the most happy with playing in the game
Hmm.
because of his personality and how like straight up he is, I guess. Because
Uh-huh.
I'm used to Survivor where people are always like fake and lying to your face or being like super nice, and he
Hmm.
just wasn't that. So,
Yeah.
and then I guess also to start off, Tim wasn't too social. I guess it could have been like a time zone issue or something, but there wasn't that many times right off the bat where we socialized with each other an extensive amount, and he was
Hmm.
kind of on the quiet end of the cast.
All right. Yeah. Well, with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the game itself. So, starting with round one, each of you, it was agreed. Each of you had 10. Each of you could, sorry, you could take up to 11 points. Whoever took the most would get nothing, and whoever took the least would double it. So, what was your strategy, and what did you do for that round?
I mean, overall, what I wanted to do this challenge was make sure that someone was, I guess, more greedy than I was, because obviously, like you said, the top player and the person who took the most points would get nothing, which is an immediate disadvantage right off the start. But like I didn't really have too much time to strategize about this challenge because Noah immediately was like, everyone take one. If you don't take one, you're getting zero for going above that,
Mhm.
since the minimum we could take was one. And so taking one, I guess, just made the most sense because there literally was no downside to it after Noah like proposed that idea to everyone. So it was like, if we go higher, we get nothing. If we try and like trick someone into taking more than us, like there's a good chance they're lying to you so they can get something and you get nothing,
Mhm.
because most of us knew like the ideal strategy was just to stick with one, I guess. And if someone was trying to trick you to do otherwise, they just wanted you to be the person to get nothing so they could get more points.
Yeah. Mhm.
So just taking one and either getting two or everyone getting nothing just felt like the right move.
Mhm. All right. Yeah. So, just to confirm, you took one for that round, right?
I did take one for that round, yes.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about round two then. So, round two was get the word across. Each player has like a word or phrase, well, actually just a phrase that you need to secretly say to everyone else. And you also got one guess on everyone else's phrases. So, what was your strategy going into that? What was happening in the game during that round? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, originally the strategy that I was like immediately thinking of was kind of like a snaky strategy in a way, which I
Okay.
didn't want to play like. I wanted to like, I guess, spam random phrases that could be the possible one, which I guess everyone thought of because that's like how the round played out. Like it was everyone trying to play around that strategy or actually doing that strategy. I chose like to try and be honest with people for some reason for this challenge. It didn't necessarily work out the greatest, and it probably wasn't the right idea. But I guess at the beginning of the round, I kind of misread like the instructions for the challenge, and I thought if you told someone like your thing and they told you theirs, you each just could get a point. But that's just not how it worked, because if someone guesses yours, you like don't get that point or they get the point. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, so I feel like I messed up that round a lot. Everyone knew what I had and I didn't know what everyone had, since
Hmm.
Noah and Tim each spammed phrases to everyone. And I guess I was like one of the only people who didn't do that to anyone.
Oh.
So yeah, I guess I just put myself at a pretty large disadvantage and kind of got behind that challenge.
Mhm. So with that, what was happening during the game in that phase? Because I know like what Tim and Noah were spamming, and then what was your perspective on your group with Kane, Ray, and Sloth during that?
Yeah, so during that round, like we knew Tim and Noah were going to be the people who were spamming and trying to get as much points as possible. And with their strategy, they probably did get more points than us, which obviously we're not sure about. But it was like a pretty big consensus between the four of us that Tim and Noah were in the lead and we had to do something to catch up to them, or like either catch up to them and advance ourselves further or knock them down a bit in comparison to us. So we made a group alliance and kind of just went with it for that round and future rounds.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So moving on to round three then, which this round was Prisoner's Dilemma or Split and Steal. You had to decide whether you're going to split or steal points from each player, and along with that, round three was kind of where your alliance was discovered. So take me through everything that happened round three.
So immediately, as far as the alliance goes, not like right away during the round, but at some point during the round, Sloth had decided to make an alliance with Noah and Tim, as well as his alliance with me, Kane, and Ray, to kind of put himself in the middle position. But Tim had leaked that Sloth made that group to me,
Hmm.
and so basically that's where Tim and I's connection kind of grew, because at the start it wasn't too strong, but as time went on, specifically this round, we got pretty close in the game and decided to work together. And so Sloth was like kind of in the bad position now, because even though seemingly he would be in a good position for being in the middle of two alliances, now everyone knew he was trying to play both sides, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of did not work out well for him, especially after Noah called him out in the game chat,
Mm-hmm.
which was definitely like, I guess, a turning point for Sloth's game specifically, because it kind of put him from being on the top of the game to the bottom, because now no one trusted him. And I tried to like express more trust with him anyway, and tried to like, I guess, still be open and honest with him, since I did value our connection and I did still want to trust him to an extent, but I knew like it probably wasn't the greatest like
Mm-hmm.
person to trust in the game.
Yeah.
Um, as far as like the challenge itself, like Split or Seal or Prisoner's Dilemma, with Kane, I decided to split with him just due to the alliance, as well as like knowing we were both pretty much in the same position regarding points, and also like during the game we had gotten fairly close, like even closer than we were, I guess.
Hmm.
So I guess that was like why I decided to split with Kane. With Ray, also in the alliance, I actually decided to steal from them.
Hmm.
First, I don't know exactly what was going through my head, because I feel like Ray probably split with me, and I wanted to be an honest player this game,
Hmm.
but I kind of I stole from Ray, um, and tried to get the extra points just because I knew Ray would split with me. And
Interesting.
even though we were in an alliance, it probably like, I guess, gave me the two extra points and put me ahead of her in the game a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. With Noah, I mean, he made it very clear he was stealing from everyone this challenge. Like, I guess, kind of backs up his like super to the point personality, and like very, I guess, stubborn about what he wanted to do. So he split with everyone. So obviously I was gonna, or not split, he stole from everyone.
Hmm.
So obviously I stole back so he wouldn't get more points than I would.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Um, with Sloth, this is the decision I regret the most, because I decided to split with Sloth. because I feel like with the position he was put in, like at the time, what I thought was with the position he was put in, he didn't really have anyone to trust, and I was giving him that bridge and that, like, I guess I extended the olive branch to work with him and make sure that he didn't feel like he was completely alone in the game. So I thought for sure he was going to split with me, but in retrospect, he most likely stole from me just to get the points, and I guess because he knew he was in a rough position for the rest of the game. So he did probably steal from me, but I chose to split with him at the time. And then with Tim, like as I said before, he was the one to leak Sloth's like playing both sides. So with how honest we were with each other in that conversation and other conversations during the round, I decided to split with him, even knowing there was a chance he'd steal from me, just because I felt like I wanted to be honest with him and show him that I trusted him if he ended up using like an ask or something to see how many points he had.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, then after the prisoner's dilemma came round four, which was just simple ranking each other. You ranked the other five players, and based on the average ranking, everyone would get points. So, what was your strategy going into that round?
My strategy going into this round was to figure out who was further ahead in points and try and rank them lower than others, because this challenge specifically had a lot of impact on the rest of the game, considering first place got like 25 points, I believe it was,
Mm-hmm.
and sixth place got 0, and it went in like increments of 5. So it was like a huge differential from like, I guess if you got first, you were in a good spot to win, and if you got like even, I guess, third or below, you probably were too far behind. So my goal was to make sure everyone thought that I was going to put them high in the rankings, because I wanted to make sure that I had a good chance to be in one of the top 2 spots, so I would have a good chance to win the game. Like as
Mm-hmm.
the game and as the game went on, it was like, I guess, more important to have as much points as possible, because the first 3 challenges, or the first 2 anyway, everyone was kind of on like very similar playing field. And
Sure.
then when this challenge came along, it was like a huge, I guess, obstacle in the way, because if you ranked low, you probably wouldn't win the game. So like Noah, who didn't really have many people in the game, I'm pretty certain he got last. That's where I ranked him, just because personally I would be happy with anyone winning this game as long as it's not Noah, because of how he played the game. I really did not enjoy playing with him, so I chose to rank him last, just to like, I guess, make sure he wouldn't win, and also just because I really want to place above him. For the rest of my list, first I put Tim, because I feel like with the alliance I made with Kane and Ray, to like, it was the same alliance, just excluding Sloth. We had a plan to put each other first and second in like, I guess, a certain order, so we would all be equal on each other's rankings. I wanted to put myself kind of above those two for this round, and I knew they were ranking Tim below Sloth too, because that's like a plan we came up with for this round. We
Mm-hmm.
wanted to put Sloth third because we thought he was kind of below from Splitter Steel. So I chose to put Tim first because I feel like his ranking was a lot lower than other people's. And then second, I put Kane, and third, I put Ray, to kind of like try and be somewhat honest about my list, and I guess like still hold up my end of the deal to an extent, because I didn't want to put them like 1 and 2 and give them a chance to be above me on the rankings when I could put them lower than that and try and rank above them. And then for Sloth, I put him fourth, just as like, I guess, as filler placement, because I filled in all the other slots like how I wanted to. And with Sloth being third on Kane and Ray's rankings, just putting him below them, I guess, kind of solidified the fact that him and Noah would be bottom two.
All right. Yeah. So that was round four, and also round four. That was when you decided to use your ask, and
Yeah,
you found out at the time you had 10 points over. What did you think? Was that lower or higher than expected? What did you think about that?
that was honestly a lot lower than I expected. Like, I don't know what I was expecting when I used the ask, but within the first three challenges, I thought specifically Splitter Steel would put me at least somewhat above other people, but 10 points seemed like a really low number. And I guess that kind of like helped me decide how I would do the rankings in that round because I wanted to make sure I had an advantage over others because I felt like before then I had a disadvantage.
All right. Okay. Well, then moving on to round five. That there was a little bit of chaos with that, with the broken challenges, but we eventually settled a reverse greed sort of situation, where each of you had 8 points that you had to give out. Whoever was given the most points would get nothing, and otherwise they would get the points they were given. So, what was your strategy for that round? What happened during round five?
So for this round, Ray and Kane both, like in our three-person alliance that was made, Ray and Kane both decided they wanted to stack points on Sloth because they thought with him ranking third, or what they thought was third on all of our lists, he would have the best chance of the outside three, like him, Tim, and Noah, to
Uh-huh.
be on the highest amount of points at that point. So if we stacked on him, he would get no points, and then everyone else who got like I guess lower or little points would have like I guess an advantage over him, and that was the plan. So Kane decided to put two on Ray and myself, and then Ray decided to put one on Kane, and I decided to put one on Kane, or that's what I told them.
Mhm.
And that would put Sloth at a disadvantage and each of us on 2 points, which felt like a pretty good plan at the time. But I knew with my rankings from the previous round that it would probably not be as beneficial to stack on Sloth when I could stack on Kane or Ray, who had an advantage over him. In my, I went to Tim and I told him that it seemed like Sloth or Ray would probably be in the lead since Kane had some weird like thought that he didn't want to win the game or whatever. I don't know. That's what he was saying to people, and like it was kind of irritating to hear that when I'm trying like my best to win the game, and he's just there getting points because of plans that were made. But I went to Tim and told him that Sloth and Ray were probably the top two in the game, and he said that Ray was more likely to be on top just because Sloth's rankings were probably lower than Ray's, since everyone apparently, according to him, thought that Ray was like further behind in the ranking round, so everyone seemed to put her higher on the rankings to give her some points. But I said that it was probably smarter to stack on Ray than it would be like anyone else, just because Ray had a pretty decent lead based on the last challenge, and
Interesting.
I made like deals with Sloth, Tim, and Kane to each give them points. So I gave 1 point to Sloth, Tim, and Kane, and then I stacked all five of my other points on Ray to put her at a disadvantage.
All right. All right. So, uh, that was round five. Moving on to the final round, round six, it was the classic game of touchy subjects, except with a little more communication allowed than normal. So, what did you do for that round?
For this challenge, all I really did was make my list because everyone seemed to be super quiet, and like I guess people didn't really understand that the socializing was allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So no one really shared what they put for like their personal lists and their genuine answers. and there wasn't too much strategy to be had with like the lack of socializing that was allowed.
Uh-huh.
So for my honest answers, I was just honest. I tended to put Noah and I guess Kane a little bit for negative ones. Like I put Noah for who do you think got last and who you don't want to play with again, which I kind of already stated previously.
Mm-hmm.
But I put Kane for most boring player because I feel like he didn't really have the amount of drive to win that others did. And he kept saying that he didn't want to win or whatever. And then I kind of put Sloth for more positive ones for me
Okay.
because I feel like he played the game probably the hardest of anyone on the entire cast. So so for who do you think won? I put him. Which player has been lying the most? I put him for like the giant leaking situation with the alliances and playing both sides. And then I also put him for least boring since he was the one who was like, I guess, playing the hardest and doing the most. And then for myself, obviously, for who do you want to win? I put myself because because obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I also put Ray for who I was glad to play with because they were the one person I hadn't met beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
and they were someone I did get along with very well.
Nice. All right. Well, that was the entire game played out, so I've just got a few more questions for you then. Um, First of all, do you have anything to say about the game as a whole?
Yeah, I feel like the concept of this game was like actually really well thought out and really incredible. I guess there was just I guess a little bit of problems with the challenges being easy to be hacked
Yeah, a
or
few
like
of them, but
yeah, a few of them were like I guess didn't promote socialization as much as others did. Like the rankings were really good and like splitters really well too.
Mm-hmm.
So those
Yeah.
were the two challenges that I thought were like probably my favorites of
All right.
them.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for the input. Yeah, the first
Yeah,
time doing this, it's hard to come up with that many different like challenges which are just like decision based because
yeah,
for this,
completely social based
yeah,
challenges are difficult.
because I didn't want this to be like, oh, do a jigsaw or like here are some slide puzzles. Because I also wanted it to be like if you wanted, you could spend like less than an hour on this every day or like half an hour every day and still do just fine.
Make it
So
less intensive on the players.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Since yeah. Otherwise, two big questions now. Do you think you won?
That is a really good question because I feel like I did probably rank high on the rankings. I feel like I got first or second on the rankings, which
Okay.
would put me at an advantage over everyone else. And then for chip placements, I feel like I did get quite a lot because I don't think I was the highest since people were stacking on Ray and Sloth, but I feel like I was up there for point total, so I could have gotten a lot of points on that one as well. And
Okay.
then touchy subjects was kind of like up in the air because no one talked much about it.
Hmm.
I didn't do too well in Splitter Steel though, which is like the one challenge that I'm kind of like I guess making me less confident about winning.
Hmm.
But I would say I have a decent chance to win. Yeah.
All right. And if you didn't win, who do you think did?
If I don't win, I think probably I want to say Sloth won for the chip placements challenge because I feel like Ray did get the most stacked on them. And if Sloth had the second most stacked on them with like what 16 or something points, that would be like pretty difficult to compete with,
Hmm.
especially if he placed like even top 4 in the rankings, which I think he did. So, yeah.
Well, that's all I've got. Thanks again for doing this. Thanks for taking part in this experiment and being willing to talk about it. And yeah, that's all I got. So, thank you for listening to Listen to Reality. Listen to Reality is owned and produced by Open Mic Podcasts. If you like Listen to Reality and want to see more episodes Or if you like Listen to Reality and want to see what else Open Mic Podcast has to offer, subscribe to Open Mic Podcasts on YouTube and follow Open Mic Podcasts on Spotify and Instagram. Come back 2 weeks from now for the next episode of Listen to Reality